we have to get right with ourselves to succeed, right? And to be that congruency.
And that's honestly, that's any entrepreneur. And by the way, don't ever worry about swearing, because I've read articles recently that swearing is a sign of high intelligence, just so you know.
Correlationally and causally, 100%. I swear a lot, so I like to pretend like I'm smarter than I am. Do we bleep out the swearing on the podcast or not?
No, not at all. Not at
Excellent.
Welcome, everybody. It's Andrea Gordon again on Realizations. This is the podcast where we talk about everything to do with real estate. If you're a real estate agent, this is a place for you. If you're a person who wants to know more about how real estate is actually practiced, this is also the place for you. I bring on people from all walks of real estate life because I really want to educate the American people about the complexity of our job and what it is we do, because I think that there hasn't been enough education around the job, and therefore people are under misapprehensions about what real estate is and how it's practiced. So today I'm really excited to have Dan Silvert here. I have known Dan since he was what I call a baby agent. I met him right when he started, pretty much about 10 something years ago. And he's been at a few companies since then, and we'll talk about that too. Dan, welcome to the show. I really appreciate you coming on today.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to have you is because you, to me, have shown some of the most profound growth in understanding marketing and understanding the business of any young agent that I have encountered. One of the things that I love about you is your resilience. I mean, I remember it was hard going when you were first working over, I guess that would have been Keller Williams, was it? What company was it? I'm so sorry.
I started at Highland Partners, now Corcoran and Montclair, moved on with Kenny Trung at Climb, but I definitely, I've taken the path less traveled. That's certainly true.
There you go. And when you were starting out, it was a really rough time in the business, actually, in many, many ways. We were coming out of the 2008 nightmare, and you really were forging a path for yourself. And one of the things I remember about you was how you would go do any open house I wanted you to do. You came through. You were really delightful to deal with because of your enthusiasm for what you were doing, and also your curiosity, which I think is a huge element in being a real estate agent. You have to stay curious and you have to listen to people. So tell me a little bit about your journey. Tell me all about where you've been, what you learned from each place you've been at, and where you are today.
That's a really good question. You definitely brought up something right now, which is kind of formulative in my approach to the business. Now I've learned to kind of advocate and petition for myself. It's not something I always did. It's great to set boundaries with clients, but also colleagues. When somebody offers me a 5th week in open house, I say, that's great. Happy to do that. But I'd also like to be on radar when you're doing 1st and 2nd week in opens, need somebody to cover. So it's been really, I am not super intuitive about business and being entrepreneurial. And thank you. That's a huge compliment. I think resiliency has been a big part of my journey. It's taken me the better part of a decade to get the success I really want. I'm also awed by people that are just killer producers within 2 years. That was not the path for me. I started at Highland Partners, now Corcoran, worked with Heidi Marchesati, Adam Betta, Debbie DiMaggio. I learned so much from being there. I moved on to Kenny Trung at Climb, learned how to work with Zillow leads. Not my favorite path to practicing real estate, but certainly something that was hugely beneficial for getting me a large part of my book of business and teaching me how to talk with a lot of people who, it's easier sometimes dealing with sphere than dealing with random internet leads. So it's really incentivized me to work on reminding my sphere without being pushy about it. I'm an agent. I'd love to be of service to you. So now I'm on my, I believe, 5th brokerage in about a decade. So it's been, as I noted, the path less traveled. But I've settled into a place at Red Oak where just really enjoying it. It's a great brokerage. I get to have bespoke marketing services. I get to really be of best service to my clients here. I've really enjoyed the journey and glad where I have ended up.
That's very, very cool. Yeah. I'm another person who's been at many brokerages, and the way I always look at it for all real estate agents is that you are the client of the brokerage. So just like when you're out shopping and you're trying to find the best deals, when you're an agent, you find the best deal for yourself at whatever the best brokerage is for you. And I also think the different times of your life, different brokerages work better for you than others. For example, when I started, I was at Century 21. The vast majority of the houses that we were selling were in the lower end of
Mhm.
prices. And those are the places where, as a young agent, you're able to fail more successfully, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
You can make mistakes and the world will be much more tolerant of you when you're working in the lower end business. But also you really work in a brisk pace because that end of the market is very fast moving as opposed to that higher end, which is slow moving. And then
True.
figuring out who you associate yourself with. Like you mentioned, Debbie DiMaggio
Yeah.
and Beta. People listening to this podcast, those people are top producers. Debbie DiMaggio
Mhm.
is actually, I believe, Joe DiMaggio's niece. And she's very tied into Hollywood and all kinds of stuff. So she's very ultra high end, based in Piedmont, which is a very rich enclave in our area. So going to a place like that, you probably were exposed to people that were used to doing that kind of business. And so you took something from that. Then going and working with Kenny Trong. Kenny Trong is, he has the moniker Fast, Kenny Fast. He used to be on bus benches all over the place. He, I believe,
Mhm.
has 479 agents at this point working underneath him. And he's the
It's
EXP.
absolutely wild. Yeah. You make everybody has their own practices.
Right,
We find a brokerage that serves us at the time.
right.
And then I'm a big fan of the notion that it's good to let go of things that no longer serve you and move on to the next
Exactly.
thing. I just wrapped up 5 years of working with Remy Weinstein at Golden Gate Sotheby's and Keller Williams. I'm incredibly grateful for that experience. I'm such a better buyer's agent. I'm such a more complete agent. And every stop I've had has benefited me and behooved me. And one thing I'd love to talk about, two things are just evolving from our failures and our mistakes within the business. I think letting go of I'm somewhat of a socially anxious person, and just to kind of evolve and to let go of some of the fear of making mistakes and accepting the fact that making mistakes and evolving, something that's been a great evolution is to be able to, rather than worrying about the fact when I have an answer, to be able to say, I'm really good at what I do. I don't have all the answers, but I have the toolkit to be of service to you and get those answers, has been hugely liberating. It's assuaged my social anxiety. And related to that, I love people like you and Debbie in the business you're your own person. You don't draw within somebody else's lines. When we are who we are you familiar with the notion of the ideal client avatar?
Uh, il- Illuminate me on that a little.
It's effectively, for me, maybe I will work with anybody that's a kind person, but maybe for me, it's 28 to 55 years old, maybe tech adjacent or savvy and analytical. But when we figure out who the people we want to work with are, we can game plan how we're going to attract them. And that's something we're going to be talking about, my Substack, my newsletter. I just really appreciate people like you. You have such a backstory coming in from theater and the arts and, not having the financial successes you wanted within the production element of thereof, and then pivoting to real estate and then finding unbelievable success. But I really appreciate our friendship in that I think it's very important to scaffold knowledge off of people that are more successful, more accomplished further along the journey than you are. And you're one of many people. Carrie Naslin is another one who just people who are who they are and don't sugarcoat it and don't pretend to be something they're not. I think we could have such good opportunities to work with the people we want to work with and be quintessentially who we are. And as
Mhm.
I've learned to embrace that, it's leading to the business outcomes I want. And I really had to let go of leading other people's vision of what my life should be to be on the path to be where I want to be and get the successes that I'm moving towards.
Well, you've grown up, is what you've done. I mean, I think one of the things that happens in life is that ultimately realize we can't be anything other than what we authentically are.
Yeah.
But it takes a long time because, realtors, and especially theater people and realtors, are all at base people pleasers. And
Mm,
we have a trouble. We want everyone to like us, and we model the people that we're with. Obviously,
yeah.
that adage about who you surround yourself with is who you become. But
Mhm.
I think it's particularly true in sales professions and in theater that people are a little bit insecure and a little bit, not the outgoing person that they come off as maybe out in the world.
Yeah.
And consequently, figuring out what actually matters to you, who you want to be, what you'll put up with, what you won't put up with, what your boundaries are, what is important to you, figuring out who your best fit customer is, which I think must be the same thing as your avatar.
Exactly. Yep.
That's an exercise that I think everybody should go through, taking a yellow sheet of paper and putting down on it what matters the most to you. What are the kind of people you like? Who are the people that have been important to you in your life? Who are the people that you don't want to associate with? What professions are those people in? If you figure out all those things about your best fit customer, a pattern emerges and you realize who you market to. Because once you start marketing to the right people, that's when business starts coming your way.
I think everything you're saying, it's not rocket science, right? But it's so much easier said than done. And something I have work to do very proactively is, there's what you're talking about as academic exercise, and then there's tapping a vein and living it and feeling the emotions and the energy of it day in and day out, because, it's more complex than 90% of life is just showing up. I mean, just doing the things is not everybody does the things. And I went on I recognized in 2019, I wasn't getting quite where I wanted to be as quickly as I wanted to. And I got kind of at the intersection of business and life coaching, and it just kind of turned me on to the fact that we have to deal with our own trauma and bullshit. And you have to forgive me for swearing, develop our emotional intelligences. Like I'm still not where I want to be with real estate a decade in. I'm a heck of a lot closer. I'm tracking really well, but like, there's so much work you have to do. And when you're self-employed and the physics of our business, you don't get to blame it on your boss or bureaucracy or the president or this, that. Quintessentially, it's you. And if it is somebody else, the world could care less. It's just, we have to get right with ourselves to succeed, right? And to be that congruency.
And that's honestly, that's any entrepreneur. And by the way, don't ever worry about swearing, because I've read articles recently that swearing is a sign of high intelligence, just so you know.
Correlationally and causally, 100%. I swear a lot, so I like to pretend like I'm smarter than I am. Do we bleep out? Do we bleep out the swearing on the podcast or not?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Excellent.
But what I would say about you in the business, the other thing is that I have seen a confidence develop in you over many, many years. That's really, really different. And I think that is, first off, it's beautiful. Secondly, I think part of it has to do with your getting grounded in this business and figuring out what you have to do in order to succeed. I mean, I think it's sort of like all of us knowing, okay, it's calories in, calories out if you want to lose weight, but nobody does it. Or it's making sure you get 8 hours of sleep. Nobody does it. Or maybe some people do someplace. I don't know who they are. But in any case, it's like figuring out how to take care of yourself in the world, which is part of the maturation process. But the other thing that I've seen you do, which I think is marvelous, that I wanted to talk to you about today, is your marketing. Your marketing is very individually Dan Silvert. No one else could do what you do. It's so idiosyncratic and it works so beautifully. Your newsletter in particular, I have just enjoyed tremendously. And I wanted to use you as an example for realtors that are watching this who want to put out content for their clients, because your newsletters are so personal. They tell us a lot about who you are. And they also show us things that are going on in different neighborhoods that you're interested in. And you have even invited your girlfriend to write parts of them, which is just lovely. I mean, I feel like anybody reading your newsletter has a really full picture of who you are and what it is you do. And if they like that, they're going to reach out to you and they're going to want to work with you. And I've just seen your marketing getting better and better. So if you can talk with us a little bit about that, and also your Substack, I would really appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, part of it is whether it's being on podcast episodes. This is the fourth time I've guested with somebody, whether it's working on your social media. I don't think anybody likes the sound of their own voice. And certainly what we put out first is pretty mediocre. Everybody I know that has a podcast, I help produce and publish a series of podcasts, doesn't like their initial few episodes. They almost want to get rid of them if it wasn't like a historical reference.
Yeah.
So with a newsletter, I think it's just a really good chance. I've created, I'll show this to you when I have a moment after I fish out my pocket, 10 different newsletters. And I think everything is kind of cross-branded, right? I am advertising with a local baseball team. I've created these little business card, cute little picture of me with
Love
the
it.
mascot of the team on the backside. And frankly, the QR code doesn't even feed to the right website right now, but I really have focused in business about progress over perfectionism. Like perfectionism and spinning your wheels rather than getting things going gets you mired in the muck. So I've just really
Great.
transitioned to just doing the thing. And the Substack is hard. It takes a lot of effort. Thank God my girlfriend, Jessica Mosby, helps with the writing, helps with the copywriting, helps me decide what we're going to do. And I get to balance things that I actively like, going to movies, going to concerts, cultural events. And with, I wrote an episode on, a Jew goes and picks out his first Christmas tree with my girlfriend. Thank you. Um,
I love that.
so it's just an opportunity. And, I get to cross brand. I put in 5 new homes in each episode or each issue, forgive me. And I get to give love to great local realtors and get on their radar. And it's been a really nice experience. The engagement's great. I get 1,500 views per month, which is, considering I only have a couple thousand people subscribed, the engagement is exceptional. And I really struggle with cadencing follow up with my clients. These are A bucket buyers. These are C bucket buyers. These are future sellers. It becomes overwhelming to me. So at least this is a starting point where people reach out to me. I engage with you. You loved the newsletter. Thank you for that. I agree. It's great. And, it's a conversation starter. And here I'm on your podcast. So it's challenging. It's a real challenge for me to put myself out there. But I see a lot of realtors out there that have only been practicing for a couple of years that are still learning the nuts and bolts of the practice, but they are great rainmakers. The law of attraction, they attract people into their world. And then if they have weaknesses in terms of navigating the contractual stuff, they can bring other realtors in. But we are in a business where it's really about biz dev and rainmaking and connecting with people. And that's something I had to do better. So the Substack was a challenge to flesh out that marketing piece.
That's brilliant and beautiful. And I'm glad that you're on Substack and you're not doing it on Facebook. um, yeah. So for me, again, just going back to your authentic self out in the world and doing this, would you say that the marketing that you put out consistently is attracting the right people? Do you feel like your marketing efforts are, the discipline you put into the work that you do is reaping you the benefit? Where do you think the draw is? Is it in you getting consistent, or is it in your viewership being consistent?
It's both of the above. So yes, it is. It's gotten me a couple of deals, but it's really one thing I think that's hard about any marketing branding we do is it's such a lagging indicator. And one thing, of success, right? Like I'm actually getting inaugurated in the next couple of weeks into the Berkeley Rotary Club. And one of my sponsors, sounds like I'm joining a 12-step program, not a Rotary Club, but is Peter Campbell, who's one of the founders of Red Oak about 3 or 4 years before I was born. So to connect with him,
Yeah.
I connected with everything goes hand in hand. I sponsor the Oakland Ballers, the local baseball team. The general manager spoke at Berkeley Rotary. One of the big time members is a father of one of my high school friends. I join, I make connections. I'm starting to do the philanthropic and volunteering things that I had neglected for years. I'm really jumping more into my community. So what was the question again? The question was, so it's hard in that I think we want instant gratification. Like I've been going to the gym for 2 weeks. Why haven't I dropped 12 pounds? And I struggle with that, moving away from instant gratification, my professional practice. This is getting me where I want to go. I started thinking about the bigger picture stuff, my big whys, what I want to accomplish, where I want to go with my relationship with my girlfriend, what professional outcomes I want. And it's been very, very positive, but I have to stay disciplined. Motivation ebbs and flows, but consistency, I think, is what matters.
Yeah,
Not to turn this into a practice of actuarial outcomes exclusively, but sometimes you just have to put your freaking head down and do the work. And if I'm doing the work and not getting the instant sales out of it, I can struggle with that. So kind of consistency is something I've way improved in the second half of the first decade of my career.
that's great. And one of the things I also know that you have done over the years is you got involved heavily with martial arts. And I'm wondering if the discipline from the martial arts in some way carried over into the work that you do in real estate.
That's been huge. Shout out to Daniel Ripper and Jerry Beverly, both from Compass,
Yes.
who got me involved in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And you know what? I don't always enjoy the practice of it. I get my butt kicked by people a lot smaller than me because they're more consistent and technical in their training. And I don't always love going, but there's a saying I like, and I don't meditate as much as I should, but meditate 15 minutes every day. If you have 15 minutes, meditate for an hour. So it just showing up when I do show up at least 3 days a week, that consistency, it improves my, let's say my neurochemical drip. It just
Mm-hmm.
it makes me feel like I'm somebody who can accomplish things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's our business is so much about mindset,
Oh
and
yeah.
as somebody
100%.
who
Yeah.
has social anxiety can be a little bit, mildly depressive at times. The choices I make directly feed correlation and causally to my outcomes. And I've just become a much better decision maker about consistency of practices. And has led to, and is leading to where I want to go. The relationships are better with my clients, my colleagues. I'm a better service to people. I don't take it as personal when things don't go the way I want. Cause as sometimes you lose buyers and sellers and you're like, shoulder shrug. I did everything right. And then to be able to assess calmly, were they at fault? Was I at fault? Was it a vendor's fault? Is it just shit happens? What
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning to depersonalize things in this business and be less sensitive to rejection.
Rejection.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I have an advantage in that coming from the world of theater because I'm a director. There's only one director on every production. So therefore, for my entire theatrical career, I was always up against people unless somebody had written a play and specifically wanted me. I was always up against other people to get those jobs. And sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. In this business, there are probably 4 or 5 agents that I am consistently up against, and one of us is going to get it every time. It's just kind of like that. It makes me laugh almost. I almost feel like we should start a real estate company ourselves and just. But in any case, rejection and the fear of rejection is, I
Mhm.
think, a big hump for a lot of realtors. When they recently adopted the requirement that a BRBC be used for every transaction, did you have any
Mhm.
issue with that in talking with your clients about you're getting paid?
That's a really good question. I, yes. And kind of sitting down and dealing with it, addressing clients' pain points, leading with I'm not really here to compete on cost of service. I'm here to compete on, do you think I provide value add? And that's something you mentioned. I can imagine the agents are consistently going up against the 1.5 to $4 million list price sort of bracketing. And the reality is people are in good hands. They're all great agents.
Yeah,
It's
you.
real. It's not six of one and a half dozen of the other, but it's really, we're all providing effectively the same service. We all have the same process. Do you connect the best with me? So that's the question is, what can I do to pitch myself as a differentiator? And one thing I've worked on is I don't denigrate other agents. It's like,
Never.
here's what I can provide because it feeds back to things. Off the record doesn't stay off the record. And you shouldn't say anything behind people's back you won't say to their face. I really believe that.
I believe
Um,
that.
Thank you, because things do trickle back one way or another. And also just be a kind, decent person. Don't be a,
Douche.
don't be a douchebag. Don't be a douchebag. That's a good way to go through life.
Yeah.
And so I just tell people when I can sense people are worried about the B or BC or this or that, it's like, my goal is to show you the value I can provide and why you're in good hands with me. But I still stress out having that conversation about the BRBC, having the conversation about some of the not semantical things, but the just dealing with clients' pain and prospective clients' pain points. It's always a work in progress.
It is. And the reason I asked you that is because you handle mostly buyers at this point in your career, as far as I know.
I'm
Yeah.
starting to shift.
Yeah.
Past buyers become sellers. So I have about 4
Right.
listings coming up next spring. And I've done a few this year, but it's, that'll be an interesting frontier if they all decide to list around the same time. I'm very good on the listing side already, but how am I going to handle 4 at one time? It's going to be a work in progress.
You'll be able to do it. You'll have
Thank you.
faith in you.
Thank you.
And if anybody who's listening to this podcast wants to communicate with you, talk to you, get in touch with you, get your Substack, how do they do it?
So the Substack is my first name, last name, Dan Silvert, DanSilvert.substack.com. About 35 episodes in, you can navigate through there. I have a couple more links, including Instagram. I'll pass them off to you so that if you want to, you can post them wherever you propagate the podcast.
Absolutely. I just wanted to thank you for coming today. You are just a doll. And I think that the humanity that you have exposed in this podcast is going to serve a lot of people in good stead when they're watching it. Dan, you're a terrific human being. You're a wonderful agent, and I am so proud to know you.
And thank you. You know, some of our mentors know it. Some of our mentors, thank you. Even if you don't know it, thank you for being a mentor by proxy. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
If you loved hearing from these incredible voices shaping real estate, you'll want to catch what's next. Click the video on screen to keep discovering more inspiring stories.